Thanks, Ann. And I know I'm standing in the way of your lunch. You're free to ask me questions as I go, but you're also free to ask me questions while you're in the lunch line, so it's your choice. As Ann said, NACFE, North American Council for Freight Efficiency, is a nonprofit organization. Our mission is to double the freight efficiency in North America. We work with fleets, manufacturers, shippers, software companies, governments, associations like Clean Fuels, groups all over the country. We work to share fleet learnings on what works and doesn't work. We're going to give you some benchmarking ideas here today. Our big goal is to scale the available technology. It doesn't help the industry if the adoption rate's real small. When it works, we should be using it. We try to share that information. And we're now working on guiding future change. You've already paid for it. These are all the different types of companies that support our work. So we have truck OEMs, trailer OEMs, Tier 1, Tier 2 suppliers, associations, dealership networks, all kinds of different people in the industry make this information available for you. I like to help explain things this way. When you deal with emissions and regulations and whatnot, on the right-hand side, a lot of the laws and whatnot tend to focus historically on engines and after-treatment systems. Those are kind of easy to measure in the lab. They're a lot more difficult on the road, which is why we've seen some issues in the real world with what meets and doesn't meet. Some of that's been talked about here today from a couple different angles. And lower emissions can be better at fuel economy, but it isn't always. There have been fuel economy emissions changes that have resulted in fuel economy increases once in a while. On the left-hand side, NACFE approaches this from fuel economy standpoint, encompassing tractor, trailer, driver, the whole thing. We try to use simple metrics like MPGs because most fleets can speak that language. It tracks straight to financial gain. The less fuel you buy, the more money you save. And better fuel economy is always lower emissions. One of the organizations that come on board is a big supporter of ours. Sir Richard Branson's Carbon War Room approached us. Said, well, we want to support your environmental organization. Well, I'm sorry, Sir Richard, we're not an environmental organization. We're here for truck fleets to cut their fuel costs. And his quote is, every gallon of diesel fuel you don't burn, that's emissions that's not put into the atmosphere. You're an environmental organization. You know what? If you're a billionaire and you want to come on and support us, we'll be an environmental organization for you. So we enjoy his support. Our website is open to all of you at www.nacfe.com. It's loaded with technology overviews, the benefits, the challenges of everything. We always talk about pros and cons of everything in there. If you go to a trade show, the marketing sales folks will all give you the good side. They don't tell you what the challenges are out there in the real world. We try to make sure we're that unbiased group that gives you the whole story. There's a lot of reports, videos. We go to a lot of different events. This is my second event this week. Next week I'm in Nashville, Tennessee for the National Association of Small Trucking Businesses. So we get around to all kinds of industry groups, run workshops. Our website, wherever possible, has ROI, return on investment payback indicators, tools. So there's a lot of different information there, and it's available to you all the time. We got about 20 fleets from across the U.S. that go back over a decade and tell us each and every year we track nearly 100 different types of things you can do to improve your fuel economy. And these fleets have gone backwards every single year telling us what they bought. So we've got a ton of information to put together trend lines. Now we can look at the national average for diesel fuel use. If you look at tax information on how many gallons have been purchased, how many miles traveled, we think that the national average for all Class 8 vehicles is somewhere right around 6 miles per gallon. We've seen some other figures thrown up here today. If you're just looking at the tractor trailer rigs for long haul and regional haul, that number's probably somewhere closer to 6.4. The fleets that we've studied this year, their fleet averages are now coming out at 7.28. So every year it's been going up. It's been going up at about 2% per year. And this year we got other information from other sources like the National Private Truck Council, ATSB, the American Truck Service Bureau that does taxes for local owner operators. So we compare ourselves to these different things to make sure we know what's going on. Okay, there's a group of fleets I was talking about. and the average fuel economy numbers. The green dashed line is the adoption rate of fuel technologies. One of the things you'll notice is that the adoption rates of these technologies just keeps going up. Fleets are trying more and more things to help them become more efficient. You'll see some of these in the future. I used to laugh at this and not use it. Now I use it all the time, especially as we've been talking here today about adopting new technologies. The cool part of having all this information available from NACFE is that we can look at each one of those nearly 100 different technologies in over 15 years. Don't worry about the fear of missing out. Our industry does not change very rapidly. There's nothing that went from 0% to 100% over 15 years that we're tracking. So we are a very conservative industry in trucking. We want to make sure it works before we're going to use it. We want to make sure the Bob down the road uses it first and it works for him and then it'll work for me. So that's part of what we're about, is sharing that information and gaining confidence in what works and giving you tools to know what you can track it. We also make available the fleets that support us this information won't let us tell you their individual usage, but they'll let us take their names off. So we have a downloadable spreadsheet. The green, those are all the different things on the left-hand column. That's too much of an eye chart. All this is a really cool big screen and room to be in. We take all those 20 fleets and tell you what they've adopted. Those are the green things, what they're currently slowly adopting, the light green things, the yellow things that they're currently testing, the red areas where they've tried it and said, nope, not for us. So if your boss said, boy, I'd love for you to tell me what we're doing that others aren't doing, what are others doing that we're not doing, you can go in and fill in that first white column with your fleet, and within 15 minutes, you'll be benchmarked against 20 leading fleets in the country. So really neat opportunity and tool for you to understand where you stand. That doesn't mean these are right or wrong. Every fleet operates a little bit differently, different operational practices, different terrains, different duty cycles, so different things make sense. But it nonetheless gives you an opportunity that's really easy to use. Another benchmarking thing we want to do, okay, we know fleet averages. What's the best of the best? Where's the US stand right now? So last year we had an opportunity called Run on Less. 6 fleets and 1 owner-operator took us up, said, show up with your best tractor, best trailer, best driver. We want to know what you can do. So this Run on Less event, we let them run wherever they wanted to run with whatever their freight was. That's not our business, that's their business. You conduct it, show us what you can do. They threw down 10.1 miles per gallon as a group over 17 days. Yes. Production equipment, no R&D stuff allowed, production equipment. If you're wondering who these folks were, across the top it's US Express, Ploger, Albert Transportation, then Hirschbach, Mesilla Valley, Frito-Lay, and Nussbaum. There were a lot of commonalities. You'll notice the trailers all had trailer skirts, trailer tail fairings, a lot of them had nose cones, they all had the flow below devices around the rear wheels, but just as importantly, there's a whole lot of differences here. We had 15-liter engines, 13-liter engines, and 111-liter engine. We had 6x4s, 6x2s with tag axles, 6x2s with lift axles. We had a 4x2. There were all kinds of differences here. So a lot of cool things being done out there. There's not one right way to do it, but what we want to show the world, if you're stuck at 6 miles per gallon, like some of that national average, or even below, because there's got to be people below that to have that number there. The current possibilities are double digits with production equipment. So pretty exciting stuff going on out there. I got asked yesterday, well, what did the best of the very best of the best do? Well, we tracked 97 trucks, 17 days, 50,000 miles. That's a total of 99 driving days in those trucks. The worst day, there were 2 days at 7 miles per gallon. The best days, 12.5 miles per gallon with a loaded Class 8 semi-trailer truck. So there is an enormous opportunity to improve in our industry yet. I'm excited by all the different types of technologies I've heard about today, but I'm also excited to know there are enormous possibilities with production vehicles that are out there, even with diesel. So after this, we did a lot of studying of all that data we accumulated. We had put our own telematics system on each of those 7 vehicles, And just to make sure the electronics were right, the drivers had to call in with every fuel purchase and odometer reading so we could match up and be 100% certain these were real numbers. So we came up with 10 ideas to achieve 10 mpg. And as Ann alluded to, we're fuel agnostic. We do not care what fuel you want to use. The way I prefer to think about this, most alternative fuels discussions have the term range anxiety associated with them at some point in time. We're all about efficiency. The more efficiently you operate, the less anxiety you have, the better your range is. So one of our 10 points is to build a culture of methodically choosing technologies. I love the bus transit one today, to know operating costs, purchase costs, maintenance costs, etc. You need to have methodical information to look at like that to understand, am I making the right decision for my organization? I strongly support that. Some of the best trucking organizations can now match the trailer with the tractor. Every truck fleet can tell you what their trucks get for fuel economy. Only a few of them can tell you which trailers influence my tractor and how much. So that data matching capability is now coming around in the world where they can tell you what kind of difference it makes. We put out confidence reports. If you're looking at these technologies and wondering, is it for me? These confidence reports are on our website, so if you want to learn about tire pressure systems, whether it's monitoring or inflation systems, I'm not even sure, are all of you familiar with what a 6x2 axle is? Yesterday I had some people who never heard of a 6x2. Anyone not familiar with 6x2 axles? Okay, I'll just keep going. Idle reduction, I'm going to cover in a minute. Transmissions, electronic engine parameters. There are now roughly 200 electronic parameters you can set on the engine-transmission combination and how it operates. Low rolling resistance and wide base tires. Light weighting, we talked about weight earlier here today. Down speeding, not many of you probably know this, but the newest, latest, and greatest engines, diesel engines, are now in the realm of 1,000 RPM operating. You probably don't notice it when you're going by because you don't hear the truck next to you on the interstate anymore. They're running far lower RPM with a much lower rear axle ratio than they've ever had before. So it's got a benefit to you and I on our cell phones, but it's got a big benefit to fuel economy. Aerodynamics I'm going to cover, and a lot of these others I've got individual slides on. These are all out here for you to use. Idle reduction, we published about 4 or 5 years ago now. We just this month kicked off a team to go rewrite this whole report because so much is changing out there in the industry. But the first time we did it, we had to come up with 19 different categories that idle reduction efforts fit into. I like to talk about the simplest one in the upper right-hand corner. On all of our reports, we put this confidence matrix in at the end. If something goes to the upper right-hand corner, it's got a quick payback and a lot of current information, so we're really confident in it. That's where we come across. We want to help you gain confidence, and if we're not confident in it, we'll tell you, well, you might want to test it or you might want to wait for the next generation. Really simple thing on heavy-duty trucks, paint color. The National Renewable Energy Lab put a vehicle out in the sunlight in a white one and a black one, full windows and everything in it, and monitored the energy that it took to maintain a comfortable temperature in it. It took 20% more energy to cool a black vehicle than a white one. So if your drivers are complaining that I can't get good sleep, don't have air conditioning, whatnot, what color truck you running? Think about it. It's real simple, and if you don't believe me, have your drivers look down on school buses. They've almost all got white roofs for a real big reason. Heat rejection, sun load. So there's a lot of different things going on here for idle reduction I'd be glad to talk to you about. I wanted to leave in the tractor aerodynamics today when we talk about adopting alternative fuels. We work closely with Frito-Lay, they're on our board of directors. As they change to natural gas trucks, which they do quite a bit of, they found they couldn't keep their current aerodynamics devices. They didn't fit around the tank, the new CNG tanks. So they went forward in alternative fuels and backwards in aerodynamics. Now over time that's come back and there's more pieces to do that. But sometimes when you make a move forward in one area, you make a move backwards in another because things just aren't compatible in the industry yet. Just this summer released a report on solar for tractors and trailers. This is gaining popularity very rapidly for different reasons. On tractors, solar panels like the ones on the left, 2 of the parties showed up to run on less with solar panels on top of their air fairings. Those can be used to charge the battery systems for battery HVAC systems for air conditioning, running hotel loads and whatnot while you're taking your rest period, and they can keep the truck batteries charged up without running the engine. There's also the use of solar on trailers to run batteries for lift gates or other systems. One of the things we're seeing now is you can get a really small solar panel that keeps the GPS telematics alive so you know where the trailer is. Because for decades, most truck fleets didn't have a clue where a lot of their trailers were, and at any given time, there are roughly 3 to 4 trailers for every tractor. Some fleets don't know where all their trailers are. With solar panels and GPS telematics, now they do. One of the fleets I personally interviewed said, we didn't know that one of our leading customers, our shippers, they always requested this ton of trailers had to be on their lot at any given time. Okay, it's part of doing business. Once they put those solar panels and GPS systems on, they realized that shipper was using their trailers for storage because they could track the trailers in and out of the loading dock, but they never left the parking lot. So you learn different things about your business with these new technologies. We are moving from those type of things that are out there into guiding future change. One of the things that's coming at us that we put a report out is 2-truck platooning. I know I'm down here in the South, the home of NASCAR racing, drafting at Talladega, drafting at Daytona. Well, there's now something called platooning, which is drafting for trailer trucks. And platooning, the technology is under test. It's not legal everywhere yet. It's legal in some places for testing, but it's coming at us fairly quickly.
There's 24 states that have either passed legislation or have administrative approval to conduct the platooning. So all across I-10, that corridor, it's legal.
Okay.
And moving forward, probably get 12, 13 states in 2019 going forward. So
awesome.
It's a deal. It is. I mean, it's being tested in Texas at the annual conference for the American Trucking Association. They're going to be doing rides for anybody that's going to ATA this weekend in Austin. And, it's
a big deal, right?
That's the next step. Everybody talks about AV, autonomous vehicles being the next step in transportation technology. This is driver-assisted, connected technology that is proven to not only save money through fuel savings, 10% on the front, on the back vehicle, and about 7%, 4.5%, 5% on the front vehicle, as well as the safety aspect. Fleets that use this, and there are very few right now, but fleets that use this they become the safest in the industry because it's satellite technology, driver-assisted, connected technology between drivers. This is the next step in transportation technology.
Fantastic. Thank you to UPS, one of our board sponsor companies. So I appreciate that input. I don't even need to tell you, he did the slide for me. Thank you. The reason it's really exciting, it's tough to find something that'll give you 10% additional fuel economy. There's no one other thing out there that'll give you 10%. So it's an exciting thing as we move forward in the industry. Thank you. Who wants to go next on electric trucks? We are doing research into electric trucks just this year. Over on the left in May, we released a report on trucks where they make sense first. This month, we released one on medium-duty trucks. We're going to follow up. We currently have a team that has just started on charging systems for heavy-duty trucks. That's quite different than the charging system for these cool cars that are sitting out here on the circle. We're talking about major power for a truck fleet to have recharging systems. Eventually down the road next year, we'll do regional haul trucks, later line haul trucks, and we're always looking for your input. If you've got an idea on what we should be doing next, let me know, please. When we look at where trucks make sense, the first place electric trucks make sense are in medium duty. They have the greatest near-term potential. They do a lot of urban all your e-commerce stuff where we're all buying things off Amazon and the internet being delivered to home, those trucks are stopping, making a lot of urban cycles. So that's where we see them making sense first, but they're going to be highly scrutinized as they're under deployment. So watch that as we move forward. Our report includes 10 arguments that are detailed out to help you understand. You know, people argue, well, batteries, Dave, batteries are so gosh darn heavy for a truck. And that's very true. But at the very same time, I want you to consider you've eliminated the diesel engine, you've eliminated the diesel fuel tanks, the heavy diesel fuel at 7 pounds per gallon that's in there, the after treatment system, all those filters and fluids and radiators and whatnot, a lot of that's all gone. So you're replacing very heavy objects with other very heavy objects. So we've detailed all those kinds of trade-offs, looking at charge times, battery life, and whatnot. So there's a lot of pros and cons, and we try to detail that out to make that available to you. One thing I forgot to mention earlier, because these things aren't all in production, we had to go out and do a lot of in-depth work to come up with this information. The full reports are $1,500, but the executive summaries and web pages are free to everyone all the time. That type of information is out there. We want you to use it. We talked earlier, heard somebody talking about the transition from diesel to electric vehicles. Our report includes parity charts. And fortunately with this big screen, you can read across the top the time frames. Now, 2020, 2025, 2030. The red is where diesel has an advantage. The blue is where the battery electric vehicles have an advantage. And when you look over here at the medium duty chart, as we look through all these different areas, right around 2020, the blue lines start to predominate, that electric vehicles have an opportunity. When you look into the heavier vehicles, our research says, boy, it's going to take a while. We're probably out there in the 2030 time frame before a Class 8 vehicle will be at a parity level with a diesel vehicle. So there's a difference in types of trucks and types of applications before you're going to see electric vehicles make sense in some of these different situations. The medium-duty cost of ownership report just came out on the 11th. It includes all kinds of different things, including an actual cost of ownership calculator. So this is available now. Some of those findings, there's still a lot of unknowns in understanding how these are going to operate. So we detail those out to help trucking firms understand what are some new things they're going to have to be concerned about that they didn't have to concern themselves with other types of fuels. There are also some enormous advantages as we move forward. There are cities in the world that are starting to put laws on the books that in future years they want no more diesel trucks making deliveries in their urban area. So it's going to force electric vehicles into some major urban areas. None of those in North America yet, but that's a global trend that's happening. The infrastructure is also a challenge, and fleets are starting to choose to jump onto electric vehicles. I'm sure UPS has a few electric vehicles, don't they?
Yeah, I don't know if everybody saw that. By the way, my name's Danny Smith. I'm with UPS. I was talking with the folks that had the Tesla out there. I don't know if y'all saw the press release several months ago, but UPS is contracted with Tesla, and we're got an option to order 125 in the next 3 years as they develop. We're working with them to develop that technology. So, and one thing about platooning that I did not mention, the president of the Louisiana Motor Transport Association is here. I think everybody knows Chance. He was instrumental in helping us get the legislation passed to allow for platooning in the great state of Louisiana. So my hat, if I had a hat, it'd be off to you, young man.
He's my board member too.
We've got something else in common, Chance.
Yeah. So yeah,
thank you. On behalf of the truck technology side of the world, we appreciate people working hard, because it takes engineers developing projects, leaders making legislative changes. These changes aren't simple. I hired into the industry in '86 to put in the first electronic engine controls on a diesel engine. And there's a reason I don't have a lot of my hair anymore. I pulled it out trying to teach people how to use electronic service tools and work through all those diagnostic codes that we had to introduce. So there are a lot of things that have to happen to make these changes. I hope NACFE is showing you here today, we're helping you with all kinds of information and reports to make changes as well. I want to conclude here. We were talking earlier about Dad's truck, Grandpa's truck, whether it was propane, whether it was something else. What we know about our past in trucking, it used to look a lot like this. And I call this Grandpa's truck for a reason. Big, tall, flat grill on it, big, flat bumper across the front, air cleaners on each side of the hood, exhaust stacks on each side of the cab, no aerodynamics across the top. It's a great truck. I'm not insulting that truck manufacturer by any reason, but you'll also see all the particulate matter just exploding out the exhaust stack. What's that?
It's not too sexy.
No, it's not too sexy and it's not good for the environment at all. I was at a recent presentation where somebody said, it's not just us that know what's happened. They pulled up their parents, somebody my age. My parents have given me my little golden book of trucks from when I was a kid. And if you look through every picture, every page on that little book from the 60s, it'll look like that. You can see exhaust smoke in it. Went to a store and bought a current kids book. There wasn't any exhaust shown on any vehicle anywhere. So even kids' book illustrators know that we as an industry have made enormous strides in reducing emissions. What does the future look like? Well, it might be a little interesting. Captain, sensors indicate we're being followed by a 2018 Tesla Roadster. It happened. There's one out in space right now. We do know the technology is going to change. There's going to be some hiccups and some blips. We're here trying to help you understand what are those challenges, how to work through them, whatnot. We're a nonprofit organization here to help the industry. So I would love for you to come see me during lunch. I'll hand you my business card. If you would like to be on our email notification system, about once a month we tell you what new reports are out there, where we're going to be, where we can meet up with you. We'd love to do it. So I thank you for your time today. Any questions in closing before I let Ann send you off to lunch?
Do y'all have any national conferences or anything coming up or events that you would like to know about or
You
here in
will,
the region?
you will find us all over the place every year. You can find us at the TMC events. You can find us at the ACT Alternative Clean Transportation Expo. You can find us at the Work Truck Show, Green Truck Summit. Between my boss and I, we tend to do about 50 to 60 public appearances like this a year. So every week, one of us is someplace or another. So we're out there. We're another string of alphabet soup characters, NACFE. Now that you've heard from me, I'll bet you recognize us because we're in major trade magazines virtually every month. Thank you.